No, he's up there. So we're gonna we can go ahead and go live. I'm gonna call this meeting to order, and I'm gonna ask Lisa because she's here to take the roll. Roll call, please.
Councilman Brewer.
Yeah.
Councilman Fields.
Here.
Councilwoman Miles.
Here.
Councilwoman Neville.
Present.
Councilwoman Willis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Here.
Mayor Wood.
I'm here. Sorry, here. Let's have a moment of silent prayer and reflection, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. Let's have the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Of the United States of
To the-
America, to the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
for
stands,
which it stands,
One nation.
one nation, under God,
nation,
indivisible,
under God,
Indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for all.
In case y'all was looking for a flag, I got you.
Thank you, Brian, for the presentation. Is the adoption of the agenda. All right, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So
Oh,
move.
second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Phil, second by the Vice Mayor. Is there any discussion on the adoption of the agenda? Okay, seeing done, there's a motion by Councilman Fields to adopt the agenda, second by the Vice Mayor. All those, oh no, not all those in favor. Councilman Fields,
Aye.
Councilwoman Miles,
Aye.
Councilman Brewer,
All right.
Councilwoman Willis.
Aye.
Who am I missing on the screen? Councilwoman Neville,
Aye.
Vice Mayor.
Yes.
That's a yes for me. Motion carries 7-0 to adopt the agenda. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for January 21st, February 4th, February the 18th, March the 3rd, April 7th, April 21st, May the 5th, May 19th, June 2nd, June 16th, June 7th, July 7th, and August the 5th. Anybody have any questions or any amendments to make to any of those minutes that's been presented?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Who were these minutes certified by?
Okay. Who were the men? What we haven't voted, we're voting on them now.
I said, who were they certified by?
I don't understand your question.
Well, your minutes have to be certified by the clerk. But our clerk's not here. Who are they certified by?
Well, we moved to approve them after we moved to approve them, then they'll all be certified. But we need to approve these minutes. So we're asking any question or anything written in the minutes. Okay. Saying none, I welcome a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Okay. Councilman Fields, is there a second to approve the minutes?
Second.
Okay. Councilwoman Miles. All right. Any discussion on the minutes?
Can I just say something?
Yes.
I've read through the minutes, but honestly, my memory does not serve me well enough to go that far back and remember that level of detail. So I say that to say that I'm trusting the accuracy of the minutes as presented.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
I was curious, and I see we have someone here. I'm excited to see her, but I was going to ask, after seeing the agenda, did we had a conversation previously about some temporary help in the clerk position. So I was just wondering who did the minutes.
I did the minute.
Mr. Rogers, did you say you did the minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is the advertisement posted to the website so maybe we can share for this temporary help in that position?
Lisa is our temporary help.
Okay. All right, I'm going to let Councilwoman Willis take it from here. I was just wondering, because I thought it was advertised. Okay, I'm going on mute.
I'm sorry, Sydney, I apologize for starting too soon. Ms. Pandak, last week, or last meeting, we were discussing qualified as compared to certified. And you said that certified wasn't necessary, but qualified was. So what qualifications does someone who is doing duties of a town municipal clerk have to have?
Actually, the code, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, may I respond?
Go ahead.
The code does not specify what qualified means, but certainly that person would have to know the requirements with respect to the fact that minutes are to be open to the public and that as our agenda, they would have to make sure that they understood or took direction with respect to giving notice of meetings and appropriate advertisements. Those are just a couple of the things. I know that there is, in fact, there's a course that's offered that has a certification. It's not required, but there is a statewide course in that regard. Other clerks I know have gone and met with veteran clerks to try to get up to speed on what they need to do in order to handle the meetings.
The only question I have now is, before anybody approves these minutes, has the public had an opportunity to view these minutes?
The minutes have been on the site. Yeah, the minutes have been on the site with the agenda.
And I might add, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I don't know if Councilwoman Willis is asking this, but there's no requirement for public input with respect to
No, I know.
minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Panda. I know that. I just was wondering if the public had an opportunity to see them.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions? The motion on the floor right now is to approve the minutes on a motion made by Councilman Field, second by Councilwoman Miles. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, I call for the question. Councilwoman Willis,
No.
Councilman Brewer,
No.
Councilwoman Miles,
Yes.
Councilman Fields,
Yes.
Councilwoman Neville.
I abstain.
Okay, Vice Mayor. Vice Mayor, you're on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, that'll be a yes for me. Motion carries 4-1. And just clarification, Ms. Panda, do we need any notice or anything that we need to put up there for the abstention?
You should note the abstention, Mr. Mayor. I think it's
4-2, one abstain.
with one abstention.
Yeah. Okay, no, I was saying that, okay, so we did note it.
And the abstention, Councilwoman Neville's abstention will be noted in the next minutes.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, I think we have a school board. I want to take a point of privilege. Justin Wilk stopped by today. Just wanted to give some remarks on behalf of the school board. So I want to bring him in and give him an opportunity to address the council. Justin, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Do we need to turn your mic on? Okay, go ahead, Justin.
Thank you, Mayor Wood, Vice Mayor Nickerson, the entire council. It's a pleasure being here tonight, being invited by Ms. Saloni Miles, Councilwoman Miles, to give kind of an update of where we are with the reopening of schools. I would be remiss, Mayor Wood, if I didn't wish you a happy birthday like everyone else in the world on social media. So happy birthday. The barbecue's treating you well, sir. You look good for 35. So, okay, so let's talk about something more serious. The reopening of schools, as many in the Dumfries community know, but who don't know me, my name is Justin Wilk. I'm the school board member of what used to be called the Dumfries District, but changed a number of years ago to the Potomac District. The town of Dumfries is inside of what we would call the Magisterial District of Potomac. Proud to represent Dumfries Elementary and Graham Park Middle School on the school board. I've been on the school board since 2015 and was recently reelected last November. So I want to talk school reopens following Labor Day next Tuesday, a week from today. That's very exciting. As everyone knows, these are unprecedented times for not just our school district, but for every school district across our great country. And it seems, depending on where you live, depending on your kind of overall total student population and demographics and geography and all this stuff, there seems to be variations of the reopening and policy, how we're doing this. And how did we get here? So on July 15th, the school board had a meeting to determine the reopening of schools. The initial plan was to go a 50-50 virtual blended model that I did put the motion forward for that plan at the time, allowing parents also the opportunity to choose all virtual. That plan failed on a 4-4 vote, leading to a 2:30 a.m. meeting where compromise had to happen, ultimately leading to an all virtual start for the first 8 weeks of school, and the phasing in on day number 1 of special needs students identified by their IEPs for in-person learning, and ELL students that were identified as needing in-person learning. So I'm just going to go over 10 kind of overall facts. This will be going out to everyone in the community tomorrow. So bear with me, and then I'll try to take any initial questions. Anything I cannot answer on the spot, I will happily take back and get you information. So kind of these are like the top 10 things that you need to know about the start of school. 1, obviously Tuesday, September 8th is the first day of school. 2, most students will be virtual only, unless the student school has specifically talked to you, meaning the parents, about your students attending in person. That goes back to those 2 categories that we mentioned, or that I just mentioned. 3, students attending in person have been determined based on instructional need. Our teachers of students with special needs have been scheduling IEPs, or individualized education programs, meeting with parent guardians and working diligently to meet the needs of their students. A lot of effort. If anyone's been following kind of some of the recent stories, there's been a lot of work in the last couple weeks by our special education teachers, TAs, and the entire Office of Special Education, gearing up to start school on Tuesday. Canvas will be the primary platform for delivery of online instruction. There's details about Canvas on our Prince William County website. Our teachers and other instructional staff have been developing lessons through Canvas, which is a common learning management system. Our teachers have been engaged since the spring in multiple training opportunities in order to deliver the best instruction for our students. Just like this meeting, Zoom will be the primary platform for live instruction. Details about the Zoom platform will be on our PWCS website. In fact, I know the teachers for the last 2+ weeks of professional development have been also, even this week, been taught some of the specific features and kind of the rules of engagement with students in Zoom. So certain things like the chat feature will be removed. The teacher has the ability to remove someone from class if there's any disruption or inappropriate language, etc. So the teachers are being trained on how to manage Zoom classrooms. Again, bear with us all. This is unprecedented. And I think, a lot of grace and looking forward to people's understanding as we phase this in. To help prepare our students for virtual learning, our division will be distributing more than 44,000 technology devices to families. I want to mention here, and this is something I've been working on, that due to national supply chain challenges, some families at the elementary school level may be asked to share devices among multiple students. Again, this is a supply chain management issue. So the laws of supply and demand, huge increase, of course, of demand all across the country. If less companies and manufacturers, many of them overseas, can keep up with the supply, we're going to have a backlog. So that's where we're at right now. Canvas and Zoom apps can be used on a smartphone or tablet if preferred, if for whatever reason a laptop is not available. We'll talk about that a little bit more. I'm sure there's some more questions. The division is also sponsoring the cost of Comcast Cares for qualifying families in need of internet service. Qualifying families are being contacted. For those in areas of the county without the ability to connect to broadband, Wi-Fi has been made available in 36 parking lot locations across the county. Again, on the PWCS website, there's a full list of parking lot locations. The one off the top of my head that I'm aware of in this region or the Potomac District is the Forest Lot parking lot. Student schedules should be available in Parent View on or before September 4th. Again, this is a new environment. We're changing daily. Student enrollment numbers are changing. As many of you can imagine, we are having a number of families opt to pull their students to private schools, are opting for homeschool. So those numbers are still being finalized as we speak. In many cases, this is delaying the scheduling of our schools. We encourage you all, the families of our district, to test technology before the first day of school. We have a help desk set up with additional resources and more people for those call-ins that we've hired more people to handle this right now. There's a help desk webpage, and I'll make sure I follow all this up with an email to Mayor Wood so you guys can put this on your website and have all these links available. And finally, be sure to look for communication from your student schools for further details on the school year, including schedules and bell times. Our school division sends out the Scoop, which is an email each week sent to parents' email addresses and posted online. We also have on our PWCS website frequently asked questions broken into a number of categories that I've talked about tonight. And so for that, I yield my time and I will happily take any questions anyone on the board has. And again, I apologize if these are very specific questions. I will do my best to write and get back to you on any questions I can't answer tonight.
Pick it up. Nobody understood a word you said, Derek.
Eric, you sound like Mickey Mouse.
No. Been hacked.
Hello.
I just called him and told him to sound like Mickey Mouse. I think we've been hacked.
I hope school doesn't go like this.
We can hear you, but you sound like Mayor Mickey, as someone mentioned in the chat.
Yeah,
Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah.
it's just Derek.
Oh, it's just Derek. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Keith, if it keeps happening, we have to close it out and come back in. See, I'm sounding like this.
No, we've not been hacked.
Oh, okay. I'm hearing feedback when I talk. That's coming from Derek? Okay. Did we hear you, Mickey Mouse?
Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me on this mic?
All right, that's better.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I had to switch up. Sorry, USB device. All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. We hope school don't go like that, as someone said. All right, Councilwoman Miles.
I just wanted to thank School Board Member Justin Wilk for joining us this evening. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the school board for the work that you guys are doing to provide services to our students. I know I personally met with my son's school last week for the IEP, and they are doing something like 1,900 IEPs before school starts, which is a task that's seems insurmountable. So I do want to thank you for the work that you're doing. I appreciate you, and thank you for coming tonight and sharing this information with us.
Thank you, Ms. Miles. And yes, thanks for the shout out for our special education teachers. They have a monumental task of completing those IEPs. After doing a training myself last week, learning how to write an IEP for a hypothetical student, I can definitely see how those can take multiple hours. So thank you for recognizing them.
All right. Anybody have any other questions about for our school board representative, Mr. Justin Wilk?
Thanks for coming, Justin.
Yeah, thanks for taking time out again for sharing that information with our students as school starts after this Labor Day weekend. So I thought that was important to give you the opportunity to share that with our people. All right.
Thank you, Mayor Wood. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Mayor, you're coming in real low.
Okay. Don't worry. I'll speak a little louder. Can you hear me? All right. Just me trying to change technology in the middle of all this. All right. Next on our agenda is our action items. We got an ordinance to authorize the town manager to execute a purchase assignment, rent and lease. This item has been continued to September the 15th of 2020. Is that right, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ordinance related to RZA 2018-002, the harbor at Quantico Creek, to be continued December the 1st, 2020.
Yes, sir.
All right. So which brings us to letter C, which is our emergency ordinance to amend the continuality of our government plan. Mr. Rogers, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. So the ordinance that is before you this evening is very similar to the one that the council adopted back in April. This simply extends the expiration date on that ordinance to December 31st to allow us to proceed with operations as we have been until that date or such time where the governor lifts the emergency declaration. So I'm looking for a motion to approve this item.
Okay, any questions or discussion, council, for Mr. Rogers on this report? Okay, Councilman Brewer.
Well, you're looking at number C?
Yeah, letter C to continue.
What happened to A and B?
A,
You're going to be continuing this on the later date?
Yeah, A is to September 15th meeting, and B is to December the 1st meeting. So now we're on letter C.
Right, I see it here. All right.
Okay. The emergency ordinance. All
And
right.
this is only pertaining to the COVID-19 election infection situation.
No, emergency ordinance to amend our continuing government. It says until December 31st or until the governor releases his emergency ordinance or whichever comes first is what I believe it read. I had to go back and read it out again, but I read it the other night. That's what it said. Yeah, so if the governor, whichever comes first.
So you're wanting to extend these meetings such as this to December 31st?
Or until the governor releases his emergency ordinance, whichever comes first. Any questions or comments from anybody? All right, because that's what we're looking for a motion on. Councilwoman Neville.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a question about the number of public hearings that we already have on September 15th. Because I recall the last time there were several public hearings. And I just want us to be sure about how many public hearings we have for the next work session that's coming up before we bump item A to that work session. I just want to have a clear understanding of how many public hearings we already have set for September 15th. And if we had to take a 5-minute break, I mean, I'd just like to know that before we just get A and just push it. I think we need to have an idea of how many public hearings we have on one day.
So you want to know what's on the agenda for September the 15th or how many public hearings we're advertising for?
Yes, I can barely hear you, and it may be my computer, but
Same here.
okay, yeah, I feel like from the previous meetings, we've set quite a few items as public hearings for September 15th. So I would like to know how many items that are actually going to be public hearings to be discussed on September 15th. I think we should have some kind of cutoff, see what's going on before we continue to add to September 15th. And
So
if we have to take 5 minutes to figure that out.
Is that gonna, I guess, is that gonna change the date that you want to, are you gonna want to meet in person or not in person? How does that help?
Well, I'm saying that now because we skipped A and B and went to C. And that was my question. We skipped A and B and we're on C. If I can barely hear you, but I think that is what I heard. Didn't we skip A and B and go to C? So that's why I'm saying, so skipping A has already continued item A to September 15th. What I'm saying is, and other council members can chime in, to my knowledge, we have quite a few items for public hearing on September 15th.
Yeah, cool.
I'm curious to know how many items we do have for public hearing, because our last agenda, which I don't have in front of me, we went up to item L and we moved quite a bit of things to September 15th. So I just want to know how many public hearings do we have?
Okay, Town Manager Keith, how many public hearings do we have scheduled for September 15th? How many advertisements have we put out?
So just a point of clarity. So when items are scheduled for a public hearing, we put that out as an advertisement, and then the agenda packet is sent out with those items. So similar to item A and B, I anticipate that there will be a number of items that were previously scheduled for public hearing at September 15th that will be continued. So they will appear as such. So off the top of my head, without the information in front of me, I believe that there will be 6 action items which will require a public hearing at the September 15th meeting. I think that a number of them are yet to be introduced on this agenda here. So that's about 6 items is what I say off the top of my head that we will be asking for action from the council on the 15th.
Okay, Councilwoman Neville, does that answer your question?
Technically, it kind of answers, because that's not a firm we don't have a firm list, so, it's a hypothetical, but I would just like to know which ones we have. Is there something we can move to the October work session? I'm curious to know the thoughts of other council members. To me, it just sounds like we have been placing a lot of public hearings on September 15th, and we just skipped A. So we've added A to September 15th by skipping it, unless we were gonna go back to it on the agenda. We have quite a number, and I wanna suggest again, if we have to take a 5-minute break so we can get a list of exactly what public hearings we are having on September 15th, we might need to look at that. That's all I'm suggesting from my memory of the meetings leading up to tonight. We've moved quite a few items. I know I have an item that's a public hearing for September 15th. I know we have the homeless shelter. That is for September 15th, and that's gonna take some time. So I think it would be advantageous of us to have a concrete list and be, just definite in how many public hearings we have, because we just added one more, and to see what's already there that may be continued again. I personally would just like to know what we're looking at. That's all.
Sorry.
Vice Mayor.
So Councilwoman Neville, I want to make sure that I'm understanding your concern. Is your concern the depth of the agenda, in that our last meeting, we were meeting until 1 a.m. So are we talking about potentially rearranging things so that the agenda itself isn't so heavy, looking at the time? Is that what we're talking about here?
Vice Mayor, in essence, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if we have to work till 3 a.m. to get the work done, but I think, in this situation, the last agenda, we already knew that was going to be really long because it went from L. So I think we do need to look at how many public hearings we already have on that agenda so that we can give our best efforts and due diligence into these conversations without being overwhelmed.
Right.
Yes. Thank you.
I agree. I also feel like if we go too long with them, then we could potentially lose the participation of the public, which is pertinent to the decisions being made. So I would like to know definitively how many public hearings we have on that day as well.
Mayor, if I may, I'm sorry, I see Councilwoman Willis.
Well, we're saying also with the public hearings and with citizen participation, is there going to be a link to be able to attend the Zoom meeting, if that's what it's going to take? It's going to have to be published so the public will be able to Zoom with the council.
Mayor, if I may, I hear requests for a definitive list. The reason why there's not a definitive list is because we have not progressed through this agenda to even schedule the remaining public hearings. So there's the ordinances that are under introduction items that you have on this current agenda that we are asking to be voted on September 15th. So just another point of clarity about public hearings. Every action item that the council takes is a public hearing. Sometimes we use that word in a more special way when it's really a perfunctory term to mean that we will allow the citizens to comment. So it is correct that we do have some land use items that are going to draw a lot of attention on September 15th. But I would, as I was saying earlier, a number of the items that were previously related to making changes to the actual zoning code, I will be asking that those items be here. So what you will have is pretty much what Councilwoman Neville articulated earlier. You will have the ordinance of the federal court. You have the ordinance related to the zoning text amendment for homeless shelters. And you will have an item related to another zoning text amendment related to fueling stations. You have those items that have been previously scheduled at other meetings that will be having their action on September 15th. The remainder of the action items of September 15th are on this agenda. And I would just like to, I know we haven't got to that place in the agenda, but I would say that all of the items on the agenda asking for a September 15th public hearing, I would constitute as time sensitive. So I understand the need to not pile a lot of things into one meeting, But that's where we are with those items. I don't think it's as many items as we previously thought, because as I said, many of those zoning amendments we will be asking to be continued to a later.
All right, so counting the items that's on today, if we voted through, and if the ones previous, can you call off all of those to us now so we know what items that we have? So just let's just hypothetically say we pass all the ones today. How many would that give us? And how does this mic sound? Is it louder?
It would give us 6 as I stated previously.
Okay, so we vote all the ones through today and the previous, that would be a 6 total.
I'm sorry, 7.
7. Okay. All right, got it. 7 to include the contract for telecommunications.
Correct.
Okay. So the extra, okay. So we see 4 up here and 3 previous.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Councilman Fields.
Okay, also by Council Lady Neville bringing up this at this time, it also opens the door to what we're talking about here at C, whether to meet in person or to still go virtual, and to have the ability for the public to chime in. Like Council Lady Willis said, will there be a link? But will everyone that wants to chime in be able to get the link, download the link, have the internet access to voice their opinions? And I see Melva shaking her head already. No.
So Mr. Rogers, what is the town's plan? Are we able to accept comments in advance in writing? Are we able to get people to, can we send out a link to get people to sign up to speak and then give them a set time or something like that to get in? What's the procedure for controversial land use when you know you're going to have a high interest? What is your contingency plan?
Sure. And I just want to make it clear that every meeting that we have had via Zoom per the ordinance, there's a link that is posted to the public, is on the town website. The meeting is available in multiple formats to view as well as to participate. So as the procedure said, yes, residents can send their comments in to pio@dumfriesva.gov. We have, since we've been on Zoom, received public comment via that platform. Not very many, but we have received public comment via that platform. Also on Zoom, just like tonight, we have attendees that are in this meeting right now, and they have the ability to comment. Right now, there's not a public hearing, so you can't hear them. However, when a public hearing is held, as we've done previously, we would allow them to speak directly to us. So you can participate essentially the exact same way you would participate in person. You can participate on Zoom, which is why we chose this platform to be able to allow, so we would not lose any capability while also continuing to keep people safe and following the governor's orders.
Councilman Fields, does that answer your question?
It does. However, I think we need to go above and beyond with these items that are coming up in the future. If I'm not mistaken, the county has something where people can come up to as the meeting is going on, doing public comment time, and it'll be zoomed in or whatever. They have a podium that's set up for Zoom for that outside person to come in. Is that something we probably can do, have a satellite area or position or post that people can come up to with the computer there, the microphone or whatever, and they can voice their opinion that way? And it'll be chimed into us?
I didn't understand. So you're asking for them to go to the council chambers?
Wherever you choose to set up. It could be the community center. You set up something there where people can come and voice their opinions while we're meeting. You have a separate computer there that someone is operating that they can chime in on during public comment time.
So you're asking to actually amend what we got here on letter C here, this continuality of government.
It's not an amendment. It's just something helping the community come in and talk to us. It's really not an amendment.
Mr. Mayor, if I might,
Okay, Sharon.
And Mr. Rogers can echo this. The issue of the emergency ordinance doesn't require you to hold every meeting. It does say at number 3, public hearings shall be conducted electronically. You could change that to May and then decide on a more intermittent basis if you wanted. The issue of having a set, that's one thing I wanted to note. So it says shall, but you could make that may and then decide arguably at each meeting. I think that would be very time consuming. It would also make it quite difficult, I think, for the town manager to arrange enough in advance. The second thing with respect to having a satellite location, and I've kind of gotten a compendium in my mind from the work I've done on this for the local government attorneys of what different groups do. Some have used satellite, but if you do a satellite location where people can come and arguably gather, then you have the same problems potentially with not keeping social distance. So you would have to have town staff in some way to set that up and make sure that the social distance is kept. It's not that you can't do it. Other jurisdictions have kind of taped off chairs and let people keep the social distance that way. But in those cases where I've seen that, there have always been some staff who kind of make sure that the room does not become a crowded room, and therefore you have lost the value of social distancing. So I just pass those along as you discuss this and think about how to go forward.
Yeah, we had this conversation on the mayors and chairs call on Monday, and one of the messages most of the chairs and the mayors in the area wanted to get through is that we're still in the pandemic, and we wanted to let the public know that it's not okay to be together in large crowd, and most of the elected officials wanted to lead by example. Now, Prince William County did say and said that they did put up some plexiglass between their seats, and they're kind of meeting, and what Brian is saying, they're trying to get people all the way to the back of the room to come in for content, but that was their choice. But the vast majority from Loudoun, Fairfax, to Arlington, most of them was they wanted to make sure that a message from the Northern Virginia region was sent that we was taking this COVID very seriously, and we wanted to definitely send a message on social distancing and things like that. But it's up to each and every one of us on how we want to, with the 4 points that's written in ours, what do we want to do for our electronic and how we want to continue. This is how we've been operating. Do we want to continue this way on through December 31st, 2020, or whichever is earlier? So that's the that's the topic at hand. All right, I think I saw another hand. Who was it? Was it Councilman Brewer? You had something? Did I see you earlier? I don't know who I missed.
No, I mean, my opinion of this is I don't understand why we're not meeting down at Town Hall. I mean, there's so many problems electronically. It delays the meetings. There's plenty of space at Town Hall where every council member could sit 6 feet apart. And if there's not, then there's something wrong with the room. But you're either wearing a mask or you're 6 foot apart, whichever you want. You want to wear a mask, then you can be closer. If you don't want to wear a mask, then you got to be 6 foot. I mean, these things have changed so much that the public can't even understand it. And then if the public doesn't understand it, then how are we to guide people? So, I mean, and we don't even understand. So my personal preference is go down to Town Hall and meet. And another thing, we haven't had council members time. So if you want to have council member time or don't want to have council member time during these meetings, then we're not following our agenda that we normally do. So I'm just,
See.
I've got one opinion out of 7. So
Vice Mayor.
I lost connection for a moment. Please help me understand. Are we in discussion right now for action item C?
Yeah.
Yes, it was
All
all,
right.
yeah. So we're talking about the emergency ordinance on if
Okay.
we want to, how we want to continue electronic. The question was brought up if we wanted to change number 3 on public hearings on that. And if we wanted to arrange that, that was what Councilman Fields brought to the table. And so he just wanted to hear feedback from the rest of the council. Councilman Brewer said he don't see no reason why we can't
Okay.
do the town hall.
Okay, so I heard that. So if I might chime in on this discussion then with as it's related to the emergency ordinance. I think that we have been functioning, very well over these past few months, though we have occasionally run into technical difficulties. I do not recall any difficulties that have prevented us from operating as necessary and accomplishing the task that we set out with regard to our agenda and our meetings. And with that said, I do not see a value in increasing the risk of our safety nor the public in order to accommodate personal preferences. If the general consensus is that for safety purposes, as the governor has laid out, that we continue to social distance in the best way possible, then I think that the health and safety of us as council members and our public outweigh anyone's personal preference or convenience. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Willis.
We discussed this the last meeting and we're now discussing it again. Now, we've had one meeting with two council people zoomed in, and we were on the dais plus wore masks. I know that it's easier and we get our agenda done and all of that, but I think we're doing the citizens, they need to be part of this meeting. And especially with all of these public hearings that are coming down September 15th, they need to have a voice and, they've elected us. We can't always be their voice because they need to speak to us, straight from the heart and not by a phone call. There's a lot of citizens who are elderly who don't even have a smartphone. They have their home phone. They don't have a computer. So, and I know that you can call in and write in and all that, but they're not going to because they use snail mail and they have a house phone and they may call you and leave a message. So, I mean, it's just, I think that these public hearings are very, very important to our town. And I think that we need to have the citizens weigh in on them. And even if it's just for one meeting to accommodate being able to have the citizens come in. However, I mean, I'll be happy to go down there and act as staff and help set things up. We all go to Walmart. We all go to Target. We all now can eat in a restaurant, and I know I've done it. And I have, so it's just, it's what the consensus of the council is. I'm just trying to make a point by saying, yes, it's a pandemic, and I understand it's a pandemic, but I mean, we've done it before, so that's just my thoughts.
Let's have our meeting at Walmart.
There we go.
Councilwoman Miles.
Thank you, Mayor. So I definitely hear everything Councilwoman Willis is saying, and I appreciate where she's coming from. We definitely have to make sure that we engage the public as we move forward, especially when we have key items that are going to be on the agenda. We do also have to weigh the health of the public as we move forward. And just from where I'm sitting at, we haven't seen any decrease in public participation since we started meeting electronically. Like even now we do have participants that are like actively participating, even though we can't talk to them now. We do have people that are actively participating in the meeting right now. and that have actively participated in the meeting since we've been meeting electronically. So I think that as long as that option is available for individuals to participate, they can email, they can call, they can join us electronically. I just would hate to risk anyone's health because there is a lot that we still don't know about this disease. There was a new report that I saw today that said that the numbers are going up again in Virginia. So I just don't think that we can chance it when we haven't seen any evidence that we've had a decrease in citizen participation.
Okay. Councilwoman Neville, we haven't heard from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I am just listening and I heard the word consensus a few times. So I think maybe if you can get our individual consensus, how we feel about being virtual. Personally, like I'll tell you right now, I will remain virtual. And I'm also curious to know, once you know the council's consensus, how many staff members are there, to include TSI? How many people other than council would need to be there face to face to run the meeting? So I think we should have a consensus, or what the consensus is, see where everyone's opinions lie, and how many staff members would need to be present. I am a no, I will be virtual.
Okay. Councilwoman Willis, you want to be virtual or in the chambers?
Chambers.
Chambers. Councilman Brewer?
Chambers.
Chambers. Councilwoman Miles?
Virtual.
Virtual. Councilman Fields? You're on mute. You're still
Chambers.
On Chambers. The Vice Mayor?
Virtual.
And virtual for the safety. So I think Councilwoman Willis?
I would like to throw in something. Let's have a hybrid.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
What did you say?
I said sorry for saying no out loud. I'm sorry, I went from my brain to my mouth.
The only reason I say that is because we've done it before. I know that you and Sydney were both, virtual at our meeting where all of the rest of us were there. And I completely understand who wants to go virtual. I totally do, and I respect that decision. But maybe a hybrid. I don't know. We're just going one or the other. But I think that that's just my offering is hybrid. But I probably.
Okay. Vice Mayor, you want to use your outside voice now?
Yes. One last thing. Councilwoman Willis, when you speak even about hybrid, the one thing that we have to keep in consideration is hybrid means bringing staff in the building. And so now we're going from your personal preference to imposing that on staff members who also may not feel safe. So for the safety of the staff, it's also important that we remain virtual, because if you say you want to go hybrid and then that's the vote that's taken, the staff no longer has an option because they now have to be there as a part of their job requirements. So that's something to keep in consideration when you offer the option of virtual.
Okay.
One other thing.
All right.
One more thing about, it's not my personal preference. I just thought that it would give whoever wanted to go virtual would be there, and whoever wanted to be there, be there. Yeah, in the office that I work in, we haven't had any issues. The staff's there, everybody's social distancing, everybody's wearing masks, and we've had nobody get sick with COVID. But I totally understand where everybody's coming from, so I will remove hybrid from the conversation because everybody's getting their everything up in the air, and there's no need to do that.
So, okay. And I think the other issue, when we did that and we did the initial, we were we were all on computers in there. We were all on Zoom, and we were just in the chambers doing Zoom, and we was voting for this emergency ordinance at the time, if my memory serves me correctly. So we were all on laptops, and it wasn't, so we were still virtual, but we were just on laptops sitting at the meeting. I think that's how
I wasn't on the laptop, you were.
I think we screened you, but we didn't have no cameras playing from that standpoint. All right, so the ordinance as it reads, and I just read each one by one so we can determine where we go. Number one, the Dumfries Town Council shall meet electronically until such time it is safe for the public to physically attend meetings and the town's public businesses are reopened, as evidenced by a declaration of the Governor of Virginia that the emergency in the Commonwealth of Virginia has ended. A quorum of town council, 4 members, must participate in the electronic meeting in order to conduct business. Meetings shall be conducted in an electronic format which allows and enables citizens to both observe and participate electronically. Due to the closure of public buildings, meeting notices and agendas shall be posted on the town's website only. All other meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act shall be met. Instruction regarding how students may observe and participate in meetings shall be maintained on the town's website. Number 2, the town's planning commission, architectural review board, and board of zoning appeals may meet electronically as necessary pursuant to the requirements of section 1. A quorum must participate in electronic meetings to conduct business. Number 3, the town's public hearings shall be conducted electronically, provided the meeting meets the requirements of section 1. Public hearing notices shall be published in a newspaper with general local circulation as required by the Code of Virginia, and information regarding electronic participation shall be provided in that notice. And number 4, any other public meeting which is required pursuant to law, including but not limited to the Virginia Public Procurement Act and any other law of the Commonwealth of Virginia or the Code of the Town of Dumfries, shall be held electronically, and meeting participants shall be provided direction for how to participate in the meeting prior to the start of the meeting. And the provisions for this ordinance shall expire upon the declaration by the Governor of the Virginia that the emergency in the Commonwealth is ended, or on December 31st, whichever is earlier. All right, so if there's no more questions or discussion on that, then we'll welcome a motion or any amendments. You're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Motion to adopt action item C, emergency ordinance to amend the continuity of government plan.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion from the Vice Mayor. It's been seconded by Councilwoman Miles. I think we have thoroughly exhausted the discussion and the conversation on it. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna call for the question on a motion made by the Vice Mayor to adopt action item C on the continuality of our emergency ordinance on our government, second by Councilwoman Miles. All right, Councilwoman Neville.
Aye.
Okay, Councilwoman Miles.
Aye.
Councilman Brewer. You guys on mute.
No.
Okay, Councilman Fields.
No.
Councilwoman Willis.
No.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, and that'll be a yes for me. Motion carries 4-3 on that. Is that right? Did I get that count right, Lisa? Did you get that?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I want to check my count because Councilwoman Neville has her calculator. All right, next on the agenda is a motion to direct the town manager and the mayor to extend the agreement with Pandak Associates for intern town attorney services. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Wait, am I on mute? Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear
Say
me.
that again? No, we hear you.
So in the time that Ms. Pandick has worked with us in the towns, she's shown us great acumen in the areas of land use and municipal law. She's also assisted in multiple efforts to update our codes to bring them up to Virginia standards, and she's shown us appropriate leadership with her experience. I would like to see Ms. Pandick continue her contract with us through the new year as we bring in a new council to help us get that new council acclimated as they take on their new roles. So the motion is to direct the town manager and the mayor to extend the agreement with Pandick and Associates for interim town attorney services.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion from the vice mayor, second by Councilman Fields. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Councilman Brewer, the floor is yours.
How long?
She said sick through the end of, how many months?
6 months.
6
Oh,
months.
6
That's what I
months.
thought. 6 months, a 6-month extension? Are you looking for longer?
Well, no, what I'm wondering is anybody from the town pursued the open employment here for an attorney? I guess not.
Did we get any applications? Mr. Rogers, did any applications come in for the attorney?
Mayor, when we engaged with Ms. Pandick, that was the directive. And so now we are extending that. I was given no further directive to do a recruitment for a town attorney.
So we're planning on just contracting out for an attorney for an indefinite period of time, or what? I mean, the whole point of us hiring Pandick and Associates was to fill in till we hired one. What I don't understand is why we haven't pursued the employment of a permanent attorney.
So I think that's what this motion, 6 months, and then I guess we can schedule a session as
But
we
see,
go.
this should be going on even as we are using Ms. Pandick's firm. And what I just heard was that we're not pursuing that. So what are we doing?
So what's the intent of your motion, Vice Mayor?
The intent of my motion is to move forward with an additional 6 months on her contract.
Okay.
That's what we're talking about.
All right. So that's the motion on the floor, second by Councilman Fields.
I understand, but we're in discussion right now. So that's what I am discussing. Are we actively looking for an attorney, or are we just going 6 months by 6 months by 6 months for an indefinite period of time? What are we doing?
So I heard the town manager answer your question in that we are at this point moving into another 6 months with her, and that he does not have a directive to continue to recruit for an attorney. So if we want to have a discussion about recruitment for an attorney, I believe that is a separate conversation.
Well, no, this is a conversation because
Sir,
this is a conversation.
you have a
because
gavel?
When Brendan McConnell had left the town, you're telling me that we haven't actively looked for another attorney, while in the meantime using Pandick and Associates. I don't mind using Pandick and Associates. We've used Sharon for a lot of things over the years, but it seems like we're dragging our feet here, not doing anything in the meantime, at least for the last 6 months. So what are we doing?
So two things. First thing, I would like to ask that when someone's speaking, please don't interrupt them, especially when I'm speaking, please.
Well, I had the floor. You
Let's,
didn't.
actually, I did, sir.
Actually, you did not. I had the floor. And still I do until I yield the floor. So now I'll yield the floor to you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like for you to chime in, please, and get control of the meeting.
He's yielding the floor. The floor is yours.
Okay, so as I've said, what we're discussing right now is the motion to extend for 6 months. Any additional discussion needs to be a separate discussion as far as directing the town manager to open up a new recruitment effort. That is a separate discussion.
Okay, so the motion has been properly moved and second by Councilman Fields.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I might, just two things. One, my staff finds it a source of some amusement that I am called Pandick and Associates. the firm is Grehan, Taves, and Pandak, and that's the way the agreement reads. As a fond nomenclature, I'm fine with Pandak and Associates. The second thing is, and I think I said this to the council at an earlier point, but I am more than willing, if the council wants to recruit a permanent in-house town attorney to assist you in that effort, and that remains the case. I think from my perspective, the advantage of extending this contract for 6 months is that you will have a new council, new in the sense there will be some different members beginning January 1, or likely to be some different members. And I think it is both fair and appropriate for someone who is going to be in a position of an in-house town attorney to not have to go through that period of uncertainty with respect to a council election, if that can be avoided. So I think there is that advantage there, and I just thought I'd mention that because I don't think it's been discussed for a while.
Thank you for that moment of clarity on the firm's name as well. All right, so there's a motion on the floor by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilman Fields, that we direct the town manager and mayor to extend the agreement for 6 months with I'd see the way as you read it, as stated by Mrs. Pandak on the motion again. All right, Councilwoman Neville.
Aye.
Okay, Councilman Fields.
Aye.
All right, Councilwoman Willis.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miles.
Aye.
Councilman Brewer.
Aye.
The aye on the record, and that's a aye for me. That's a motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll take you up for that offer. All right, next is a discussion item put on the agenda by Councilman Brian Fields on community policing. Mr. Fields, the floor is yours.
Mayor, before we get into that, I think Mr. Brewer mentioned that. We didn't
Oh,
have
I'm sorry. I
time.
skipped all. I'm
Instead of
sorry.
some
Wait,
comment time.
Brian, excuse me. I skipped all the introduction.
Yeah.
I went right down to your discussion. Excuse me. I had fat fingers here. Let me come back up. We got 3 introductory items on the agenda. I'm so sorry. All right.
I'll move it.
There's a introductory item A, ordinance to authorize the town manager to execute a lease agreement for town-owned property. We're asking to move that to the September 15th, 2020 public hearing. Town manager, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So that is correct. We have a tenant that has a lease amendment that would need to be executed. So tonight I'm asking for council to authorize and schedule a public hearing for September 15th for this item.
Okay. All right. So we're looking for a motion from the floor, and then we'll have discussion. I'll take the motion and then discussion. All right, so I move that we move this to the public hearing to authorize the town property on 7739 Main Street. Okay.
Second.
All right, second by Councilman Fields. All right, discussion. All right, is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, we'll call for the question. All right, Councilwoman Miles.
Aye.
Okay, Councilwoman Willis.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Aye.
All right, Councilwoman Neville.
Aye.
Councilman Fields.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nickerson.
Yes.
Okay, and that's a yes for me. That motion carries 7-0. All right, next introductory item is an ordinance authorize the town manager to execute an agreement with the IDA, and help me with that acronym again.
Industrial Development Authority.
Industrial Development Authority of Prince William County to administer our Dumfries Cares grant program with our CARES funding. All right, Town Manager, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I may, I would ask that we consider the next two items together. The first one is a MOU with the IDA, and the other one is a corresponding budget amendment. These two items are related to the CARES Act funding that the town has received. The MOU with the IDA is designed to be able to provide grants to town businesses as well as nonprofit organizations. As you all know, local governments are not permitted by law to provide grants to for-profit entities. So in order to be able to administer this grant program, the IDA has agreed to cut the check for us for those town businesses. And so we are proposing to make $150,000 available of the remaining $380,000 that we have from CARES Act funding for just specifically for town businesses. And so item B is the MOU and item C is the budget amendment that corresponds with that. The remaining $230,000 for that budget amendment is for the continual purchase of personal protective equipment and other things to be allocated as we adjust the way that we do business under these new circumstances. So I'm asking that council schedule both of these ordinances for a public hearing on September 15th.
Okay. All right. Is that anything else you have to say about that before we go to discussion? That's it? You're talking both B and C at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Councilwoman DeVille, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions and comments. One, I think oftentimes when we speak on our council meetings, we touch on things that have some type of historical context, whether it goes back 2 years, 10 years, or 20 years sometimes, back in, before the millennium. But I think we need to look at this title. I understand CARES funding, but we have actually had a program called Dumfries CARES that I hope to see come back in some way one day before my time is up on the council. So I think we should look at the title so we won't have confusion in the future. And maybe something like Town of Dumfries CARES Act funding grant, something else, so we won't have to cause a whole lot of confusion, because when I first saw the agenda last week, I had to go back and get clarification for myself as the person who created the original Dumfries CARES. So I just want to clarify, I do understand what CARES funding is, but we need to be clear on that name, because I could see a conversation happening in 2 years and that confusion for people, and even the citizens who remember the Dumfries CARES program, that can be confusing in itself. I can pause, but I can go on.
No, and I think that's a great point of clarity, because we got a grant from Walmart that actually funded that program as well. So the Walmart grant funded the Dumfries.
But you know what? And as a grant writer, thank you for saying that, Merrick, 'cause that makes me recall that was federal DCJS funding. So we already had federal funding that created the Dumfries CARES program. So I strongly encourage the council to change the name just for that point of clarity. I think that would be a good idea. Another question I have that I doubt we have the answer right now, but I am curious to know the number of businesses in the town. And I guess that would include the nonprofits in town, because we would already have, I guess, a good amount of the paperwork on file. So if we said something about businesses on file as of June 30th, or whatever date we want to go with, we already have tax information for those businesses, or we should, on file. So one concern I had, even at the county level, when they had CARES funding for businesses, especially with the systemic issue for Black-owned businesses, sometimes you have micro businesses where you don't have so many staff members. And at the county level, originally you needed to have 3, then they brought it down to 1. And I understand what's written in our packet is for 1, but I would even like to see this extremely simplified, where we divide up how many businesses there are on paperwork, on file with the town, and just divide the money and give it out, because everyone is impacted by this pandemic. And the last thing I'll say for now is I would just like just specific information. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe our mayor asked for like a list of how we could spend CARES funding. So I'm not sure if this is how we have to spend it with the IDA, or if there are other ways we can spend it. I would like to take money and get gift cards from Toto's and give it out to everyone who's hungry because of the pandemic. I like to make sure, you know, I know School Board Member Wilk mentioned there's a back order on laptops. That's another way we can spend CARES funding, to make sure every child in the household has CARES funding and or a laptop and the bandwidth so they can actually participate in those Zoom classrooms, headsets. You know, how could we complement the students in town? So, you know, just to go back and clarify what I just said, we have to spend it this way as stated with IDA. If not, I like to know other ways we can spend it. You know, can we support the only grocery store in town by buying gift cards and giving them to people who are hungry? You know, what other ways can we spend it? And I'd like clarification on, you know, that's a lot of money for PPE. So I'd like to have clarification on how this money is being spent as proposed before we get to our infamous September 15th series of public hearings. So I'm gonna go on mute now after saying all that. Please let me know if I come back off mute to clarify anything I just said. Thank you.
I'll be happy to address those items. It's called the Dumfries CARES program because of the CARES Act funding, but we can call it whatever the council would like. So that's not a problem. So if you would just let me know what you would like it to be called, it shall be called that. The MOU actually refers to the funding source, but the application can reflect any name that council desires. In regards to how CARES Act funding can be spent, you will recall that the council previously added money to the FY20 budget when we first got the CARES Act money. At that time, I sent an email with the federal guidance for how the CARES Act money can be spent. So I'm happy to send those links to the Treasury, for the Treasury Department again. But in general, the guidance is it has to be for at the onset, before the onset of the pandemic until December 30th of 2020. In regards to specific ideas, in regards to whether they are appropriate or not, I would feel more comfortable in reviewing those types of things on a case-by-case basis, whether we could say yes or no to that on that piece. In regards to whether we can just divide the money up and hand it out, I know that that is absolutely not appropriate based off the federal guidance. We have to keep in mind that the town has to certify to the county, because we are town, then to the state, who also then has to certify to the federal government that these funds were spent in an appropriate fashion. So we need supporting documentation to be able to make those certifications and be subject to a single audit, which these are federal funds, so we would be subject to that audit. So the requested information in the application is so that each application has that information with it. If it's something that a business applies and it's something that we can pull our records, but the information that's requested is for everyone's protection so that we don't have to run into any issues with repaying the funds. Additionally, in terms of the amount of money made available, since the grants are up to $10,000 and we're making $150,000 available, but depending on the number of people that apply, that might not go very far based on the number of organizations. So we also have to keep that in mind in terms of the amount of money. We also only have until December 30th, as we know now, to spend this application up, approved and up, and have to receive applications, work with applicants, and make sure those funds are in regards to what the town is spending the CARES Act money on. As it costs money to provide PPE for the town. Any items that for town employees, any items that are needed for us to continue to conduct business in terms of if it's additional software, making sure every employee has laptops, supporting the technical efforts for Zoom and other things that we can only do remotely, installing the glass paneling in the customer service center so that we can safely reopen that, upgrading our software to make sure that we can handle appointments. As you all know, DMV is only open by appointment only now. So we have to make those sorts of adjustments, ongoing cleanings. And so all of the money has not been spent, but this is a budget amendment because this is what we are planning to need for the remainder of the grant term. I would also like to remind council that there is more CARES Act funding coming. So I don't have the hard figures in front of me, but the town is reportedly due approximately $2 million additional dollars in CARES Act funding. So if we want to talk about additional items or additional benefits for the community, I think that there is opportunity to do that going forward. But with the funding that we've been provided, we have allocated the funding that we believe we'll need to take care of the organization in terms of council and the employees. And we wanted to make every other penny available for the community. So that explains the items in the budget amendment. So I tried to get everything. Let me know if there's anything I missed.
I just want to get clarity on that amount. We got 451,000, right? The first time. I'm told that the Board of County Supervisors is going to vote on the 8th, I think it is, to give us the other half, which is another 451,000. All right, is what I'm told, which is going to be just a little less than $1 million. So nobody knows where this 2 million number. So the Prince William County, are we getting that from somewhere other than Prince William County passing it through?
Like I said, I've seen, I don't want to, I haven't seen the paper,
yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
You threw out a number. I talked down to the officer, so we're only getting another 451 is what I'm told. Just so you're not, I don't want you to expect that much, but okay, if you say 2 billion. Councilwoman DeVille, did he answer all your questions or did you have some additional follow-up with that? Is that?
Yeah, well, I can clarify right now. I just, unless anyone has anything else to share, nothing special with the name, but I brought it up just to have clarification. So Town of Dumfries CARES Act funding grant. That's just what I threw out there the first time I spoke.
Okay, CARES funding. I think
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think that's amendable. I don't think nobody would disagree with that.
And I don't know, I still like the idea. I just combed through my emails on my phone and I don't recall or I cannot find. So if that list is resent on how we can spend the money, I'd like that because I'd like to share other ideas in that instead of just having the 2 options that we have. That's a lot of money to spend that way when people have lost their jobs. People are hungry. Kids don't have what they need to be successful. And it's not the council's fault. However, we're in a position where we could help. So if these things qualify, I don't want to wait until the second round of funding comes. If we can feed people, I like to get those cards and feed them now. And it would also be helping the only grocery store that we have in this food desert. So again, I'll continue to look through my emails, but I would like to have that considered. I would also like to have it considered to see how we could help the children, our youngest citizens, succeed at school during these times. If we're in a position to help, I feel that we should help. And in my opinion, it takes both of those take priority over other situations going on. Even if we took money and bought PPE and other items for members of our community. So I'm gonna go back on mute. Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Willis, the floor is yours.
One of the things that is interesting is the IDA MOU. And who tells the IDA what checks to cut? Town council or town manager?
I think it's read the town manager or designee from the town council. It said, I believe when I read it, it said town manager or designee. On let me go back to what page that was on.
You're correct.
That's what it said. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
we have purview over our budget, but we're not seeing the numbers of where this money's being spent. And Ms. Novell is asking, you know, where is it? What are we able to spend it on? And we've not got even clarification on that. So I think that, you know, that we really should be on top of this CARES money and not be behind, you know, someone saying, well, we spent it here, we spent it there, or I'm sorry, I can't tell you where it came from and where it went. I think we need an accounting on everything. I think we needed an accounting on how we're going to spend it, what we can spend it on. And I need to see it in black and white, not someone telling me that, oh, by the way, we can spend it on this, 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 and this, but we can't spend it on this, 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 and this. I need to see the information coming down the pike from either the county or the federal government. And how much money are we getting? I mean, we've been given $451,000, and the Board of Supervisors another $451,000, and then an additional $2 million. So how in the world how can we spend this money? Nobody said it. All we've heard is what we can't do.
Well, if I may, that's simply not true. Because the council adopted CARES Act money into the FY20 budget, and I explained at that time, and I will resend the email with the links from the Treasury Department. I mean, there's no incentive to make up money. We're here to help people. So we put this money in a budget ordinance for council to act on it. So that, I mean, it's not a smoke and mirrors. It's a budget amendment that says what the money is used for. So we're trying to help people. This should be a good thing. We're trying to get a program to provide money to businesses that have been hurting. To suggest that there's something else going on is just inappropriate. And so that's what we're trying to do now with this money. If the council would not like to allocate the funds in this way, that's what we're bringing this to council to say. So like I said, I will resend everything. I think that all of the items that Ms. Neville brought up are things that can be accommodated as long as they're permissible with the grant in terms of providing PPE to businesses. We've already purchased some PPE that we can distribute, and we actually hope to be able to do that this weekend to the public. In terms of the grant itself, the request is for council to appropriate $150,000 to be made available for the grant. So in order to be made available, the way the MOU would work, we would get applications from our citizens. We would tell the IDA, here's the applications that we have. Here's the funding amount that they're approved for based off of the applicable terms. And the IDA will cut the check. Because that is what's necessary, because we could not do that as a local government. So if the council would not like to see the $150,000 used in that way, I mean, that's, we're asking for council's pleasure on that. But the appropriations that we have listed in the budget amendment, which are articulated in that item, say what we are asking or proposing be done with that funding. And I want to just make another note that we are, as we talked about earlier, we are in an emergency, and it does require us to make adjustments. This is not a windfall for any local government. The CARES Act money is to handle purchases that were unintended. And so we have incurred unintended expenses related to COVID-19. as I talked about at the end close of the fiscal year or in the financial report, we are blessed to be in a position where we were able to close our last fiscal year with a surplus. So we do the best and manage our resources as appropriately as possible. And this is going to be no different. We are trying to assist and help the community, as well as make sure that we can continue to operate our government in the midst of this pandemic. So I'm happy to hear other suggestions. That's why, we have the ordinance before council tonight, but I just wanted to make those points of clarity.
All right, let me read the qualifications and who this is for, the qualifications for criteria, just so we got a moment of clarity. There's eight qualifications, or letters A through H in your packet. One, we're looking at for-profit businesses and 501c3 nonprofits shall all be eligible. And particularly, we're looking for small businesses in the hospitality, entertainment, retail trade, employment, administrative support services are given the preference. This is included but not limited to hotels, restaurants, retail stores, personal service establishment, offices and facility support services, and tourism venues. All business, regardless of sector, will be eligible for grants if they meet the following criteria. Their business must have gross receipts of less than 2.5 million for calendar year 2019. 2, businesses of 501c3 nonprofits must have a physical location within the town of Dumfries. D, businesses must be current on their taxes and must have their recent tax year and have a valid town of Dumfries business license. Businesses must have experienced a revenue loss of 25% or greater attributable to COVID-19. F, businesses and nonprofits must have been in operation within the town for at least 2 years. G, the amount of grants is not to exceed $10,000 per organization without regard to previous grant awards through Prince William County. So if they got it from Prince William County, we're not even counting that. And H, the following businesses shall not be eligible for the program: banks and financial institutions, franchise business except those that are registered in the state of Virginia and locally owned and operated in the town of Dumfries, vape and tobacco retailers, and the adult entertainment business. All right, so those are the qualifications listed for receiving this grant. So that's what we're questioning. Councilwoman Willis.
I take exception, Mr. Rogers, for you telling me that what I am talking about is inappropriate. All I'm asking for is the accounting of where we're spending this. We've got the A through H, where we're spending it, what we can spend it on, but we don't have specifics of where anything went to. Now we're getting a windfall, as you claimed, someone did, whether the town mayor or you, of $2 million. That's fine. I want to help people. That's not the issue. The issue is making it account to us on how the money was spent. The one thing that the one thing that is missed here is we are in charge of the budget, not the town manager, town council. And where in the world we've lost this idea that we don't have that as a job description is amazing. I don't understand it. But every time I ask about the budget or anything that has to do with something that has to be accounted for, I get the smoke and mirrors and the, inappropriate. Well, I'm not inappropriate, and it is not smoke and mirrors. I want to know where the money is going, specifically line by line. Where are you sending these checks to? And how, I understand that, there's qualifications from A through H, and I'm sure there's guidelines on how to apply for it. But the thing about it is we need to see where it's going to.
Okay, Councilwoman Willis, let me ask this question. So are you looking for a spreadsheet on how all the COVID money is spent and where to go?
I don't really care how you give it to us.
Okay.
We need to see it.
All right, Mr. Rogers, can you get the council a list of the current COVID money that we appropriated previously, where it has already been spent?
Absolutely. And my point of clarity was that we're asking for the money to be appropriated.
Right. No. I got you. I'm just want to address the previous. I just want to make sure the previous money that's already been spent, we just want a copy of that. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Because I want to get to the agenda item that's at hand right now. Right now, we're talking about the town of Dumfries. What did you call this, Councilwoman DeVille? Let me get that name right.
Town of Dumfries CARES Act funding grant.
Okay, Town of Dumfries CARES Act funding grant. All right, so we want to talk about a MOU agreement with the Industrial Development Authority of Prince William County so that we can be able to give grants to our for-profit businesses as well as our nonprofit. And we're talking about appropriating that $150,000. So let's have topics moving forward towards that conversation there. So let's talk about, do we want to enter into this memorandum of understanding so that we can provide those four criteria based on the criteria that we read? And do we want to appropriate the money to give out these $10,000 increment grants to those? All right, so let's have the discussion in those directions here moving forward so that we can have a poignant conversation on what's on the agenda right now. All right, Councilwoman Willis, is it about the MOU? And
Yes.
is it about the, okay, all right, go
I don't
ahead.
need to be tootled or not tootled, but corrected. This is not where I'm coming from.
Okay.
The thing about it is that I think again, I think council should approve what goes into the MOU, first of all. I think the town council needs to be able to oversee everything. We don't need an agent. We have the whole council can do that. And it needs to see, we need to show our citizens where everything's going. So I think that, you know, if we have an accounting of what we can do, that's fine. I don't have any problems, but as long as the town council's got to have their fingers in the middle of this.
Mr. Mayor, if I might,
Hey, Mrs. Pandak, the floor is yours.
just so perhaps I could offer clarification. And you would vote on these after your public hearing on the 15th. That's the first thing I think. The second thing is that, yes, you would approve the signing of the Dumfries CARE Act grant agreement. And I apologize, Councilwoman DeVille, but I'm reading right off of the top of the agreement. Now we can adjust that to have the name be Town of Dumfries CARES Act funding grant. But that's in your package, and what the mayor had read to you before from the qualification criteria is on page 2 of that agreement. This is an agreement that is very similar to the one that the county has with the IDA for a couple of reasons. One, the IDA is acting as a vehicle or conduit, as Mr. Rogers said, because the council can't give out money to private people. Just can't do that. So the money will go through the IDA. There's a process, and Mr. Rogers can go back and tell you how the actual disbursement will occur. But you will get an accounting of where that money goes. In part, you will get it later because the accounting has to be provided to the county. So there are a couple of levels in which there has to be documentation. That's a requirement of the CARES Act funding. And based on what I hear, at least a few instances around the country, the feds are pretty serious about you providing the accounting. So I think it's cautious to be aware where the money's going to go. That's important caution. But the second thing is that there will be an accounting that comes back. So I wanted to note those things. I mean, I've reviewed this draft agreement, and it is consistent with what the IDA has been asking for, and I also have looked at it from a legal standpoint. The third thing, I think I ought to say this, and maybe it goes without saying, I do not think that it would be prudent for the town council to set itself up as approving each one of these individual grants. I don't think that's appropriate. I think it is better to have a methodology that is first come, first served, or a lottery in which names are pulled out of a hat. Because for the council to involve itself in whether an entity is going to get a grant or not, I think is a little risky in terms of appropriateness. Is it illegal? No, it's not illegal, but I do think that you are well served or better served in terms of the auditing type function if you're not making those choices among applicants.
Thank you, Ms. Pandak, for that moment of clarity.
One question for Ms. Pandak. Who makes the decision on who gets the grants?
According to this draft agreement, and that's why I will defer to Mr. Rogers, because we talked about initially there was a lottery that was involved, and that's what the county's doing because they know they don't have enough money. I will tell you that the experience of many localities is that people don't want these grants. And that's not to say they aren't in need. It is that the documentation plus how they have to show that with respect to their tax returns all contribute to a number of entities ending up with local governments ending up with money left over because the grants aren't being completely used due to all of the reporting requirements. Having said that, the selection of the recipients, if you look at the top of page 3, I believe, Mr. Rogers, and you'll correct me on this, is by the town manager or designee from the pool of certified applicants. And my understanding is that is going to be done on a first come, first served basis, assuming that whoever comes meets the qualification criteria. So business X comes in, says, I'm in the town, but I just got here. You don't meet the qualification criteria of 2 years. Business Y comes in and meets all of those 8 qualifications. Then it comes in before business C, business Y moves up the gets the grant, then you look at business C. Am I correct, Mr. Rogers?
That is
that
correct.
is pretty important.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. So any other questions about the MOU from any other council members or the appropriation of the funds? All right, because we're looking for a motion to either vote this up or to vote this down. Councilwoman Miles.
Oh, wait a minute. I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Rogers.
Move it to the September
For the
15th public
15th.
hearing. For the
Right.
15th. The move it to the September 15th public hearing. Sorry. Councilwoman Miles.
Yes, so I just had this question for Ms. Pandak. That language that you just used, does that need to be spelled out in the ordinance about how the pool is going to be conducted?
It doesn't have to be, but I'll talk to Mr. Rogers. I think we could probably craft something that makes that clear.
Would you recommend that though?
As I said, I recommend a sort of non-discretionary method of choosing, and the county's using a lottery. I think some people might feel that that's not really fair, but they're expecting a lot more businesses than they might be able to serve. Doing them first come, first served is the way another one of my clients that is actually an economic development authority is handling it. You meet the qualifications, you're the first one in, you get the money until it runs out.
Yeah.
Yes, and if I may add, the intent, Councilwoman Miles, was to, if council approved the MOU, to set a date where we would, pretty much a definitive time frame where we would open applications and put out all of the criteria so that we could get everybody, as many people as possible within that window, so that we could be not as discriminate as we possibly could. Anybody that meets the criteria that applied within that window can get a grant.
Yeah, and I think the
The
biggest
spirit of the question was just more so because she gave that background in terms of how there are legal requirements that are associated with the grant. I wondered if that was something that needed to be in the ordinance just to cover it. So that's the only that's why I asked that question.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So this is these funds again, they expire December 31st. So it's whoever we give the grants to. We wasn't trying to. I think the spirit of this was not to bog it down, going back and forth on who was going to sign and who was going to approve it when we're in the fourth quarter of the this year. So, what is the will of the council? Is there a motion to be made at this time to move this to a public hearing? Looking for a motion for the ordinance to authorize them to execute this IDA for the grant program, and the ordinance to amend the FY21 general fund to add it to the September 15th public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by the vice mayor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Councilman Fields. I believe we've exhausted the discussion, but I ask, is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I will call for the question. Okay, Councilman Fields.
Aye.
Okay, Councilwoman Miles.
Aye.
Councilwoman Neville.
Aye.
Councilwoman Willis. You was on mute. We didn't hear it. Okay, that's a thumbs up. That's an aye. Vice Mayor Nickerson. Okay, she gives us the thumbs up. Please note that Councilman Brewer is he gone for the meeting? Yeah, he's exited, so he's not there. Then that's an aye. So this motion carries 6-0. All right, now we can get to the discussion items. All right, Councilman Fields, again, community policing. I think your topic is community policing beyond the movement. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, Councilman Fields, the floor is yours.
All
Please,
right, thank you and good evening.
Go ahead.
So thank you and good evening to all. Of course, many of you, if not all of you, know my background in policing, and as I was an officer, in community policing. I would like to bring to you today, leading a discussion about community policing, and the subtopic being beyond the movement. I'm going to attempt to share my screen with you at this time. Yeah. Hold on a second. I don't know what happened to my screen. Okay, can you see this now?
No.
No? How about? Can you see it now? You see it now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Apologize for the technical difficulty. All right, so we're going to be moving right along. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you, Brian.
Okay. Again, community policing beyond the movement. What is community policing? Community policing is a philosophy that promotes organizational strategies that support the systemic use of partnerships, problem-solving techniques. Such techniques for advocate and address the immediate conditions that give rise to public safety issues such as crime, social disorder, and fear of crime. Acknowledging the movement. What happened? Let's talk about what happened. Police-involved shootings led to unrest. As you know, tens and thousands of protests shake up America. Police agencies joined in community discussions, and the words, "I can't breathe," became a national chorus line. Citizens had to learn to unite, recover from damaged businesses, loss of capital, and rebuilding trust. Community leaders, such as what we have done, have had to learn to speak out and step up to the community's needs. How do we move forward? I would say we move forward by continue positive communications and better relationship, bridge the gaps, and educate your communities. Let's further discuss this. Building public trust and enhancing police legitimacy. This topic has direct implications for police policy and public health in the United States, particularly in minority communities where police-community relations are often characterized by a long-standing conflict and distrust. So we ask the question, how do we move forward and what actions can we positively take? Positive contact with uniformed police officers can substantially improve public attitudes toward police, including legitimacy and willingness to cooperate. Brief door-to-door, non-enforcement communicating, community policing visits will substantially improve residents' attitude toward police, including legitimacy and willingness to cooperate. Repairing relationships. Who's who in your community? Getting to know your business owners, public officials, essential personnel, community leaders, assembly leaders. Let's break this down. Our community leaders are the Mr. and Mrs. Jones of the block, or sometimes called Big Mama, Mom Dukes, Grandma, or Grandpa. We all have these people in the community that our community kids and certain people in the community look up to. The community handyman, the community nurse, or the historian, you know, the one that knows everything that's going on in your community. Every block has it. So we need to reach out to these people, and hopefully these citizens will bridge the gap that we need with our police department. Understanding the differences. As you see here on your screen, everybody still with me?
Yes.
Okay, I need some feedback here. As you see on your screen, are you seeing movement, riot, and protest?
Yes, we see your screen, sir.
Okay, understanding the differences. Movement, riot, and protest. What is a movement? A movement advocating for nonviolent civil disobedience and protests against incidents of police brutality and all racial motivated violence against a particular race or cause. What is a riot? A riot is a form of civil disorder commonly characterized by a group lashing out in a violent public disturbance against authority, property, or people. What is a peaceful protest? We've had that right here in the town of Dumfries. A protest is a public expression of objection, disapproval, or dissent towards an idea or action, typically a political one. Now, let me back up a little bit. Now, Vice Mayor, with our demonstration that we had here in the town of Dumfries, we had a peaceful protest and a demonstration. Agree?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So does anyone here would like to talk about what we've seen here in Prince William County and surrounding areas of Dumfries, what has turned into a not so peaceful protest, which was happening up in Manassas when it started off, and what turned into a little bit of rioting, which we've seen in the DC area, which is not so far from us, and what the movement really is. Can anyone help or chime in and explain some of that? Anyone like to chime in on that?
So I guess the question, Councilman Fields, is, I guess the crux of the discussion. I know you're trying to get us to engage in the discussion, but I guess everybody needs to know, I guess, kind of like what is the I guess your intent, or what are you trying to gather from everybody in the discussion?
Well, I just asked a question. What do you think going forward? How can we re-engage in the community and to make our partnership with our police department even better? To have the citizens open up to us and to have the citizens feel comfortable with re-engaging or engaging with our law enforcement and public safety.
I guess, have you heard, is this a problem? I guess, are we getting complaints about our police department, or are you hearing?
No, none whatsoever.
The town, the town of Dumfries. So Richard?
No, none whatsoever. This is just an open discussion, because if we don't talk about what's currently going on around, not just in our communities that are close by, but nationwide as well. If we don't talk about it, who else is going to talk about it? We as community leaders need to step up and be voiceful with this, for, against, or just bringing unity within our area and within our community. Is that understood?
All right. Well, thank you for your poignant presentation.
Okay. So, per the movement, as some would call, angry protesters and people without proper police knowledge started using the term defund the police. As I am no supporter of defunding the police, I do understand the knowledge and the need of the knowledge of the police department to go forward. We need the police in our communities. Let's ensure that all understand the definition of defunding the police. And we've all heard people say that, correct?
Not in this community, no.
Not in this community.
I haven't heard it.
That's true. We have not heard it in this community. But however, we've heard it on television and all over the news in different communities. But like I said, I'm not for defunding the police, but I believe some people are confused on what the definition really is. What is the meaning of defunding? Wikipedia says defund the police is a slogan that supports divesting funds from police departments and reallocating them to non-policing forms of public safety and community support, such as social services, youth services, housing, education, healthcare, and other community resources. We need the police. What the police department brings to the community, we cannot in any kind of way even think about defunding that. Knowing your police department. Many of us know our officers pretty well in this town here. And hopefully, whoever comes on board will get to know them and they'll get to know us. But we need to know the makeup of the police department, the history of our police department, the escalation complaints, if there are any at all, prior racial complaints, if there are any at all, use of force complaints, the hiring practices, community outreach, and community policing program. I believe we're doing a good job in that as well, but we need to know what makes up our police department. That's what this is about. Knowing who we hire, knowing who we have on the street and their background and what our police department has been through. Next, we'll get into reaching the youth in our community. Getting to know their interests, how to relate to their topics, what's going on in the streets, who do they look up to in their community, how to keep them positively engaged. Now let's go back to getting to know their interests. Mayor, can you help me chime in on what I may mean by getting to know what their interest is?
I have no clue.
Getting to know their interests would be something like knowing what's the end thing going on right now, knowing what's the hot topic. It could be the video game. It could be, you know, what's going on with the latest sports that are going on now. You know, if they're not playing sports, they are playing sports. We need to engage with them and know exactly what's going on. What is their interest? What is their interest is coming to the community? What can we bring to the community? What interests them? Is it a basketball court? Is it a soccer field? Or things like that. They are our growing community. So we need to know what's going on with that. How to relate to their topics. We sort of just touched on that. We need to know what's going on. What's going on in the streets? The things that we may not know about. We have to have a person in public safety to really know what's going on in the street. Someone that the community can trust and talk to, that has their ear to the ground and appreciate that and really know what's going on.
Excuse
Who do
me.
they look? Yes.
I'm sorry. It's 9 o'clock. Can we have a stretch break, please? We're 2 hours in.
I'm almost finished.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Who do they look up to within the community? Meaning, are they looking up to the positive role models in the community, or are they looking up to the not so positive role models in the community? If it's the not so positive role models, we as citizens and community leaders, whoever it may be, elected, non-elected police officers or not police officers, we need to know, we need to redirect their, hopefully their thought process so they can keep everything positive. How to keep them positively engaged. We sort of touched on all that, you know, having great community youth events and having things they can look forward to. Like we have coming up, the basketball court named after Vice Mayor Tony. That's coming up. That's something for them to look forward to. And hopefully next summer, without COVID, we can get some great youth programs going. All right. Unite Public Services. Non-emergency calls, medical calls, how to handle complaints upon arrival. That gets into the approach. And do we have someone in the police department or our police department approachable? Even if we come there, are we approachable? Can we take that complaint and make sure it gets to the right person to have the answer? Extend proper care and concern. I think we do a pretty good job of that when we have someone in the community who's ill or may have passed away. We get into the community, we know who they are, and we offer condolences and follow-ups and things like that. Alternative resolutions. It may be a situation where the police are involved and there are other ways to deal with it than just what the norm is. Have an outlet to reach out to other sources to resolve that issue. Positive characteristics of an effective officer. What are the positive characteristics? As we're talking now, be approachable. Be able to be seen and be able to resolve some of these issues or some of these concerns that we just talked about that may come up in the future. Friendly follow-ups. There's nothing wrong with sending an email, picking up the phone, or letting us know what's going on, letting them know what's going on, and say, hey, how are you doing today? How's everything been since we last had an interaction with you? Something on the positive. Okay, with that being said, that is just a quick overview of what we can do beyond the movement. We all know the movement is going on nationwide. And what do we do as a council? What do we do as community police personnel with our police department? How we reach out in the community and make things better. Any questions or comments?
Thank you for that discussion presentation, Mr. Vels. We appreciate it.
All right.
I think we got nothing else. Thank you. All right. This time I would like to give an opportunity for council to give any final remarks for the good of the community. Councilman Fields, anything else you want to say that you didn't address earlier in the meeting, or anything for the good of the community?
No, we just got to keep in mind, well, yes, I'm sorry. We just got to keep in mind that we have school starting next week. I usually give the speech, be safe and watch out for the school buses and things like that, but we need to be safe at home. We need to make sure our children are attended to. Remember the guidelines of who can watch who at the appropriate age. We don't need a 10-year-old watching a 2-year-old all day. And that's not going to work. There are guidelines. I remember when I was in office, I used to keep that in my pocket so I could tell the parent that, hey, they need to be such age in order to watch this age. So we need to make sure we're not violating those guidelines and have everything set up for when they start virtual learning. If you need help, there's help out there. I'm glad to have Mr. Wilkes come on today to explain some of those areas that we can get help from, as far as internet access, so forth and so on. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Mouse, any thing for the good of the community?
I don't have anything.
Okay. All right. Vice Mayor, you got anything for the good of the community in closing?
Thank you. I hope to see community members out with us Saturday as we honor Mr. Tony with the naming of the basketball court. And that's it for me. Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Just want to say to everyone in the community, our condolences to those who have lost loved ones. Our very own Yvette, I don't know if you all know, she lost her dad. So y'all keep her in your thoughts and prayers. Yeah, I saw her before she got on the road out. And so definitely want to send our condolences to her. You know, I had a lot of death, a lot of kids and adults are going through over the loss of, you know, the Black Panther, you know, Chadwick Boseman, you know, colon cancer, health, those type of issues as we get older, to check out our physical. You know, I've been promoting us as hard as I can on a regular basis as being a healed community, healthy eating, active living type community, walking 1 to 2 times a week, and encouraging people to actually meet me out there for walking, because I think our health is our wealth, and taking care of those type of things. Also want to echo Councilman Phil's sentiment to be safe as everyone starts back to school and what is going to be a new normal for them, and which is abnormal, because kids are used to being around each other and social by nature. So it's a challenge. We ask that all the public just be patient with the changes. Nobody likes change because change is uncomfortable, but this change is necessary as we dive into areas that we're now seeing in this 21st century for the first time. So as leaders, we have to adjust and we have to be flexible, and we ask that you two bear with us. We are also, in addition to the park that Vice Mayor talked about, we will be shooting the fireworks up on Saturday night at 9 a.m. You'll be able to see them shoot up from the landfill. You can see them from various areas in the town. So we encourage you to be safe, to social distance, and to take all the necessary precaution, but to enjoy the show. You know, you guys have had a long summer, and this is kind of a way to accumulate with your family, maybe have barbecue, burgers, dogs, whatever, and to just celebrate and take time to, you know, focus on so much all the things that you're grateful for. It's been a heavy weekend for sports fans, for Marvel comic fans, for everybody, because of the loss of so many in a short weekend, from John Thompson to a couple of basketball players. So just reflect on and love on your family. Think about the things that you're grateful for and all the good things that you have, because it's okay to not be okay. And, you know, there's somebody out there that you can talk to. We don't want you to be depressed during this time. Council Lady Willis, did you have anything to say for the good of the community? Any comments before we? No?
No.
Okay. All right. Mr. Rogers, any save rounds?
No, sir.
Okay. Ms. Pandak?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. And Lisa, thanks for joining us tonight. And at this time, we're seeing no further discussion. I think the vice mayor wanted to take a break first, a stretch break. So I don't know if she wanted to take a stretch break, but then she came back and asked to adjourn. So is it a stretch break or what do you want to do now?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Good night.